All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on the new EMDG, What You Need to Know. I'm Mervin, and I will be the moderator today. So we're just going to go through the material pretty much as it was last month, but we have heard more from Austrade and our colleagues in the consultants group. So just like to ask everyone, just a quick question. Just type in the chat box if you were able to attend last month's webinar. So, however, for those who weren't with us the last time, please stay. Also, if you were here but you'd like to add or add something or refresh, just stay with us, okay? So please make sure to select panelists and attendees when typing or asking a question in the chat window. We will try to address them as we go, and we will check them all at the end of the session, okay? If you're experiencing any technical issues, please chat with me, who will be controlling the technicalities of the webinar. Over to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Mervin. Yes, today Stuart can't be with us, unfortunately, but he's let me go it alone. We'll soldier on. Stuart and I, as you're probably aware, have been in business for many years, since 2016. Vebiz is a specialist grants business focusing on the export market development grant and on the R&D tax incentive mostly, and business productivity grants. I've been a chartered accountant and EMDG consultant for many years. Starting our EMDG and export specialty business, I believe that exporters could be better supported with better planning and better budgeting. It's taken Austrade some time to catch up. Stuart had previously been with a multinational chemical organisation and held a number of positions in computing across a variety of industries, as well as managing an outback sheep and cattle property way up past Burke. I've been there, it's fascinating. Working together in Vebiz extends our friendship. That began on the first day of high school and has extended through our professional careers. We've worked with many wonderful, innovative and dedicated businesses over the years. We want the time you spend with us today in this session to be a benefit to you and your business. Just moving on to the agenda, moving through today's session, we'll discuss the whys and wherefores of the new EMDG. The Export Market Development Grant Act 1997 has been revised with new legislation, the Export Market Development Grants Legislation Amendment Bill 2020. We will consider updates from Austrade, how we will be operating in the last year of the old scheme and how it works for the new scheme. Please ask any questions. You can put them in the chat and address to everyone or just to Mervin, who'll bring them to our attention. Let's go through the background and details as we know it. The federal government has decided to change the EMDG to a grants program rather than a reimbursement program, although that's having some issues in the implementation. It still looks like a reimbursement program. Austrade has issued the grant guidelines. The dates for lodgement of the applications for agreements are 16 August 21 to 30 November 21. There will be no extensions. Previously, we could extend because we had accreditation as a grants consultant. You could have taken it all the way back out to the end of February, I believe. Now, we cannot go past 30 November. The last EMDG under the old scheme will be processed as previous claims. So we still operate in exactly the same way, and exports can be lodged for those after 30 June 2021. For expenditure in the new scheme, if you are claiming, you should only claim for expenses that have been in the plan and the approved or amended grant agreement. However, as we can see from the application timing, there may be a significant portion of spending happening before you have an agreement. Austrade have determined that you can claim back to July for those expenses. For new claims, you can't go back 24 months as in the old scheme. So if you are new and want to claim any expenditure for the 2019-2020 financial year, then you must claim in 2020 to 21, that is this year, i.e. under the old scheme. There will be more definitive documents and procedures issued by Austrade before they call for applications for the new EMDG. Vebiz will keep you up to date with this information. So what do we know? Summarising again, I think some people will be familiar with this. These are the changes and overall requirements. The new EMDG will start from the 1st of July 2021. The turnover limit has been reduced to $20 million from the previous $50 million. Grant agreements with agreed amounts will be subject to application and assessment. Plans must show that your business is suitably ready for each tier of the new scheme. We'll get onto that shortly in a minute. Marketing activities need to be carried out according to the agreed plan. Payment will be made against milestones, and we presume it's all probably going to happen at the end of the financial year. The total potential funding per exporter over the program's life has been reduced by $430,000, although not many clients actually get that. Okay, the new tiered approach. The grant is still for 50% of expenditure. You must spend at least the same amount of those on those expenses yourself. Tier 1 is new to export. There's a maximum grant of $40,000 each year for 2 years for a total of $80,000. Tier 2 is about expanding export promotion activity, and its maximum grant of $80,000 per annum for 3 years, a total of $240,000. Previously, these first two tiers would have had a possible grant each year of $150,000. So you can see that they've pared it back in the first part of the claim. Tier 3 is making a strategic shift. The maximum grant of $150,000 each year is available for 3 years. So the total over that 3 years will be $450,000. So what is required for entry? Again, we know the grant's 50% of expenditure. For Tier 1, we need to be showing that we haven't exported before, but you need to show that you have a plan to export and show that you're ready to export. You may need to use Austrade's export readiness tests or provide them with a plan. We'll go into that a bit more later. Tier 2 is expanding the export promotion activity. You need to show that you have a plan to expand exports. You need to show that you have already exported. So Tier 3 is making a strategic shift. You show you have a plan to make a strategic change and also that you have been exporting. Austrade will assess your application, but we don't know what the specific merit criteria will be. We will now discuss the application process. Now, we believe that the new Austrade procedure will follow these steps. There will be a period when applications will be made. This has been announced, as mentioned before, to be between August and the end of November. Austrade will assess all applications together, as they do have limited funds. We don't know what the merit criteria will be or if there are any. The grant offer agreements will be made with applicants guaranteeing the amount of payment. So again, Austrade needs to have all those grant applications in before they can make an approval or recommendation. The amount of payment must meet the acquittal process, and they'll be available after 6 to 8 weeks. The grants will be available after 6 to 8 weeks from the closing of applications. Exporters will conduct the marketing activities according to their agreed plan, and plans can be varied at any time if submitted to Austrade. Exporters will then claim against the milestones for the expenditure made. It's unknown how many milestones and payment. I'll have to look at the chat to see. Payments only estimated at the end of the year, potentially. So what do we need to apply? We need to provide information to Austrade, plans to market and promote products or services, etc. It could be a marketing plan and budgets, as we can prepare with you, or passing the Austrade test for exports. Each applicant will need to supply the plans and show evidence of these other criteria, including the number of grants already claimed. You should consider the fit and proper person test. You must consider whether you're marketing illicit goods. There's the usual checklist questions, and are goods made or designed in Australia? So, moving on, Vebiz will assist clients to determine the appropriate level. We have the templates, tools, and experience to develop plans with exporters. We will help prepare and lodge the grant applications. Applicants should know should note that there is no export sales test at the moment. That may affect the plans and decisions. However, Austrade will be assessing each application. We don't know what the merit criteria are as yet. So, moving on to the export marketing expenses. Eligible export marketing expenditure will continue under these categories. Well, should note that the new training activities can be claimed by Tier 1 applicants and representative bodies only. And there's no mention of trade fairs and promotional events, but these expenses probably fit into other categories like promotion and advertising. So, category limits. At this stage, we have no specified limits, but that will probably come from your approved marketing plans at each tier. Substantiation is a matter of organisation and substantiation in this grant. It is still cash-based. Evidence will be required. I wonder if there will be an export sales performance test. I haven't looked at the chat window. Has anyone mentioned anything there? Okay, so back to grant approval and grant agreements. When you have lodged the grant application, it will be subject to approval by a delegate. They will try to get this done within 8 to 10 weeks. From the end of November, the approval should be available by the end of January or early February. I wonder if Austrade's working over Christmas. Grant agreements will be a standard format template with details variable for each application or applicant. Payments are made on milestones achieved. It may be one or more. It must still be an eligible entity, must have spent the money. Just one moment. We know there are other eligibility criteria must be maintained and that an acquittal process will be undertaken. This is a $135 greater than $135 million grant program, so there will be appropriate government oversight. We will need to summarise expenses and provide a declaration on these claims. Austrade have been working to roll out the new program while trying to manage the old one in the past year and into 2021-22 financial year. We anticipate that some adjustments will be made in administration as this progresses, pardon me. Austrade haven't finalised the program detail, but they will be in the next couple of months. We will let you know. You should attend the next webinar too. And it's good to see some interaction here happening on the chat windows. That's part of the program. This is not just next year, it's ongoing from here on. For this year, we continue to process the EMDG in the usual timeframes in the usual way. But each existing EMDG client must create a plan and lodge an application for next year and beyond. We urge exporters to do this as soon as possible. Do you claim in 2020-21? This is one of the big questions. How do you determine a claim for 2021? This simple list allows a quick assessment of the decision criteria. However, if you can claim, we recommend that you do. It's better the scheme that we do know. And how to claim for 2021-22 onwards. Whether to claim for 22 or 2021 to 22 onwards is a big question. Use this decision tree to determine where you fit in the scheme. Then create a plan with Vebiz. We can determine what your spending will be, or with you what your spending will be for 2021-22 in our budget model. We must assume that you'll be approved before relying on the grant to refund spending between July 21 and February 22. We need to have good plans. So other questions that have been put on the chat box. How important is the marketing plan for an EMDG application? We'll get to the questions that have been asked as we go through. But these are some of the recommended, or some of the questions that we thought we should ask. We have templates. We don't have templates from Austrade as yet. How do we work out what's best for whether I apply this year or wait till next year? Well, I think we've been through that, but we need to go through with each client. And we also need to work out which tier we should apply for. I think it's up to each applicant to determine which tier they apply for. But we will get more from Austrade on that shortly. And it's basically will be the same documentation supporting claimed expenditure and eligibility of the entity. Just in this case, we'll have a plan. We're very happy to take any other questions now or call us with specifics. I have a question. Yeah.
Yes, I saw there's actually a lot of questions on the chat window, but Herman is asking what fees does Vebiz charge?
Well, Vebiz continues to charge in exactly the same way it has before, on a success basis. However, we are looking at a fee for doing the planning up front, which would be offset against success fees later. It'll be a nominal fee. Does that answer your question, Herman? What are the other questions?
Yes, another question from Suki. How do we claim for the period between July 1 and the end of January?
As I mentioned before, we put in the application and it's approved, and they will allow you to go back to July 1 for the expenditure. However, if you don't get approved, then you can't have the EMDG support the expenditure you've made. So we need to make sure it is eligible expenditure and be fairly certain that it'll fit into an agreed plan. One of the things that's come out of this sort of discussion is if you have expenditure in the 1920 financial year and you're a first-time applicant, then you really have to think about, if it's 2021 year, you have to think about putting a claim in after July 1, because otherwise you won't get the expenditure. You'll lose a year worth of expenditure. You'll lose 2021 funding. So try and think about claiming early while creating a plan for the future.
Right. There's another comment from John Taylor. He said that he just learned this morning the EMDG grant guidelines will be published on Austrade's website in early July, along with model grant agreements for each tier of grant and the application form. Applications for the 2021-22 EMDG grant round will open on 16 August and will close on 30 September 2021.
All right, so it's September rather than November. Okay, that's interesting. I thought it was November. Okay, and it's good to see they'll be putting up the grant agreements and the templates. That's great.
Right, another question from Phil. For marketing plans that start in August, at the time of submission of the EMDG application, will Austrade honor expenses from date of submission or from date of EMDG approval?
That I'm sure is in the grant agreement, will be in the grant agreement, but they have said that they will honour expenses going back to July if they're eligible and if they're in the plan, I presume.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Yes, another question from Sophia, and I think this has already been answered. Will there be a marketing plan template from Austrade?
Does anybody have a response to that? Because I don't believe they have a marketing assessment tool for tier 1, so that if you're ready for export, you must do that or get a plan done. I'm not sure about, I don't think they have templates. I think they're relying on other people to provide marketing plans.
All right, thank you, Rob. Here's another question from Chloe. If I apply for tier 3 and they determine ineligible for strategic shift, will they assess me at tier 2 or just assessed as ineligible?
I wish I knew the answer to that one. That's a very good question. I think we'll just have to wait for a bit more information on that. I'm not sure how they'll assess strategic shift, or whether they'll, I don't think they'll just put you back to tier 2. I think if you have exhausted, it depends on which year you're in. You can only claim up to the total amount of the grants available as well. But I think it depends on where you've been before and how many grants you've already had. We'll have to find out. We'll come back with an answer.
All right, another question from Suki. The template for tier 1, she's asking where is that found?
We'll be able to get it out and put it on the website when it's available.
Right. I think that's we've covered most of the questions. Anybody else who has questions?
Okay. It's good to have some questions. Hopefully I'll be able to come back with some answers to all of those to everyone. And one of the things we wanted to know is, do you know whether to claim in this year 2021 for the expenditure? Do you have plans for whether you'll be using the new scheme? And we need to lodge the agreements as soon as possible. Okay, so if there are no more questions, please get in touch if you have any other questions. We have planned another webinar up to date to update and provide more details soon. And I'm sorry Stuart couldn't be here. Please contact us though. The calendar links are on the chat box so you can make a booking to discuss your own circumstances. We do hope you have enjoyed this session. And thank you very much to Mervyn. Thank you for attending.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rob.
Okay, thanks.
And also, everybody will receive a copy of the recording. So just keep an eye out on your email, and then just let us know which of you would like to receive a copy of the slides as well, so we can send it in a separate email. Does anybody want to receive a copy of the slides? All right, Stephen, Sophia. All right. All right, it seems like a lot of them would like to receive a copy of the slides. So yes, so we will be emailing them separately to you. Thank you so much for attending. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thanks, Mervyn.